Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. All right. As always, appreciate all of your guys' support of the podcast. One thing I have been really slow about passing along is if you have a company, a product, something that you're really proud about, or you're the owner of a business that wants to promote it to thousands of BYU fans, if not the bigger Big 12 universe, advertise with us here on Locked On Cougars. I'd love to have you do it. We've done multiple ad campaigns with local companies out there. And if you are looking for that, make sure to reach out. You can hit us up via social media, hit myself up, or reach out to lockedonbyu@gmail.com. Love to get you squared away and on the path to advertising success right here in the podcast sphere, but obviously reaching thousands of Cougar fans, both here locally in Utah, but literally the reach is worldwide. We have Cougar fans listening all over the world, Middle East, Asia, down in South America. We've had people reach out from literally New Zealand. I think we got some friends down there. The best part is you can reach Cougar fans wherever they're at, and you can do that with this here podcast. All right. Let's talk some BYU basketball, though. Another high-profile matchup coming out. John Rothstein, Robbie McCombs, among others, reporting. I can back it up. People have revealed it to me as well. Is that BYU is in the final stages of finalizing their non-conference schedule for Kevin Young's second year, and one of those games is a high-profile neutral site affair, albeit in Salt Lake City at the Delta Center against the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, absolutely thrilling game in the NCAA tournament between the Badgers and the Cougars. John Tonje was absolutely unstoppable in that game, and BYU emerged with a hard-fought 91-89 win. Many of you will recall that. But I think this is a really, really smart series for BYU and just adds, I think, to what I talked about on yesterday's podcast, if you're an everydayer, about how Kevin Young and the BYU Basketball Brain Trust is trying to cash in on everything that a guy like AJ Dybantsa is bringing to the program, and that is eyeballs. It's bringing a ton of attention just himself, but BYU obviously is a story because most people out there have them ranked inside the top 5 in the country. I know that Houston just got Milos Uzan back, and obviously is Milos? Whatever. Bigger point is they're considered to be a favorite, but BYU's right there among the nation's elite. That's the expectation for this Cougar squad, and they have put together a really, really fine non-conference slate. In this Wisconsin game, I think it's the right way to go about it because it's a Power 4, essentially home and home. Now, they're both neutral sites technically because BYU will play Wisconsin at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City. The return trip, according to the reports, and I can back this up, is expected to be played in Milwaukee at the Fiserv Forum, which is the home of the Milwaukee Bucks. So 2 NBA venues, 2 high-level programs, and obviously they can recreate what we got in the NCAA tournament this past March. I'm all for it. I love the fact that this series is starting in Salt Lake. This is not a series that, remember, BYU has signed football series and basketball series over the years before they got into the Big 12 that they would say a program, a Power 5 or a Power 6 at the time would say, hey, come play us and we'll make a return trip to Provo or we'll make a return trip to the Delta Center. And how often did those get bought out? It felt like quite often, if not the majority of the time, those deals get nixed. I think it wasn't Tennessee. BYU went and played there and obviously got the win in double overtime at Rocky Top. They were supposed to come to Provo. Then they nixed it and played a game in Nashville against Virginia. Great. I love the fact that BYU essentially said, okay, we'll play this. We'll do the home and home, but you're playing in Salt Lake City first. I love it. I fully expect BYU will make that return trip to Milwaukee. They've been very good, speaking of the Cougars, about when they've had deals of this variety. And it drives me a little bit nuts because BYU football is playing at East Carolina this year as part of a home and home deal. They could have bought out of that. They didn't do it. They've tried to be obviously good business partners in that. They also have the pending road game at Wyoming this year in basketball. We'll see if they pay that off. But getting a team like Wisconsin to the state of Utah, even if it is 40 miles north of playing at the Marriott Center, I'll take it. I know that in time you'd like to see high-profile games played at the Marriott Center. I'd love to have a Wisconsin playing in Provo. I'd love to have any of those big-name teams they've scheduled, the Villanovas, the North Carolinas, an exhibition. All of those have a lot of high-profile nature to them. But I will take it. Playing at the Delta Center is not a disadvantage in my mind. Cougar fans will travel from all over to watch BYU play wherever they're at because they're going to play against Villanova in Las Vegas. I fully expect that to be a very pro BYU crowd in Vegas on opening night, November 3rd. You go to Orlando. Trust me, I'm married to a Disney holic. I call my wife, and I love her to death. I love Disney myself, but the chance to go to Disney World over Thanksgiving, you can't tell me that there's not going to be Cougar fans in the stands watching BYU play in that. They're calling it, what is it, the something chocolate invitational, whatever. I love the fact that BYU is scheduled up, and this Wisconsin game is just the latest in a long run here this week of high-profile games that are obviously going to push the needle or move the needle when it comes to the national media. BYU already is going to have a ton of people watching them. It's just par for the course when you have the potential top overall pick in the NBA draft in AJ Dybantsa. Richie Saunders, he has absolutely emerged as a bona fide star on the Big 12/Power 4 level. You look at the other players that BYU's brought in, Robert Wright III. They have put together a fantastic roster that's going to draw a lot of eyeballs, and the nature of the games BYU also is scheduled, traveling across the country, going to Boston to play UConn, going to Orlando for the MTE event, playing in Las Vegas, playing in Salt Lake City multiple times. In this circumstance, it was against Wisconsin. They are going to be a household name, and that's what I love about BYU basketball. They're not shying away, and what was it ranked? It was like 340 something last year with their non-conference schedule, with just the pits. I'm not going to lie. I was really out on BYU's non-conference slate last year, and I get the circumstance they found themselves in because it was the hiring situation of Kevin Young and putting a schedule together. You had to kind of deal with it, but I much prefer what BYU's doing with this basketball scheduling and having a back in a 2-game deal with Wisconsin. It shows the BYU absolutely is working themselves into the national consciousness when it comes to hoops. This is a BYU athletic department that for years was defined by the BYU football program, and basketball has had its moments because they've had the Danny Ainges, they've had the Jimmer Fredette's, but what Kevin Young has made BYU basketball into, I don't think we can say that it's ever happened like this before, where BYU football draws major eyeballs. It draws 60,000+ people to every home game. And I get all that, but hasn't BYU basketball kind of become the co-headliner for BYU sports with what Kevin Young has really engineered here in a very, very short time? Remember, he's just over a month. We're just past essentially a year and a month since his hiring at BYU. And we're a little further than that, but you get the point. It's really, really cool to see what BYU basketball has become in short order. And games of this variety, Wisconsin, Villanova, UConn, they are going to be ones that people will tune into when college basketball struggles to get any sense of traction, it feels like, in the local sports scene. I can tell you, working in sports radio as long as I have, when it comes to the non-conference of college basketball, the true diehards are the ones that watch these games. And if there's a Utah Jazz game, now we have the Utah Mammoth in hockey. Those often take priority over the Mississippi Valley States of the world coming to Provo, Utah. No offense, but I'd rather watch the Utah Jazz take on anybody in the NBA than watch Mississippi Valley State play BYU. Now, you guys know that for my job doing this podcast, I watch all the BYU games, but you get the point. What BYU is scheduled here, these games that they have scheduled, these high-profile ones, the most recent one being that Wisconsin game, those are the ones that people will say, Jazz are playing tonight or BYU's playing Wisconsin. I'm going to tune in and watch BYU play the Badgers. That is what BYU has done here. And I love the fact that the opening of the 2-game set is in Salt Lake City at the the Delta Center, excuse me. And the best part is, it's going to kind of stand alone. It's on a schedule, according to John Rothstein, for November 21st, which is the Friday night before BYU's final road game in football at Cincinnati the next day. So if you're planning on going to that Cincinnati game to get some Skyline chili, watch it from your hotel room. All right, coming up next, we will finish up today's show more on a conference-wide note. I think that Brett Yormark has the right mentality when it comes to the college football playoffs future, and he is trying to play the best hand that has been dealt to him in a pretty tough circumstance because, quite honestly, the SEC and the Big Ten don't want anybody but themselves to control everything. But Brett Yormark, I think, has approached this the right way, and we'll explain why next.